They asked me, well, how does one man kill 500 soldiers? I tell them, it's simple. You know the forest, you know the cold, you know patience, and you wait in the absolute silence. The Soviets, they came with tanks, with airplanes, with 1 million men. They thought numbers win wars. They were wrong. I had something they did not have. I had winter, I had silence, I had time, and I had this, the will to make them pay. 505, 98 days, no scope. This is what happened when they came to my forest.
They called him the White Death. 505 confirmed kills in less than 100 days. No scope, no spotter, no mercy. The Soviet Union sent an entire army to kill one man. They failed. This is the story of the deadliest sniper in history and why the Winter War became his hunting ground. November 30th, 1939. The Soviet Union invaded Finland. 1.5 million Soviet soldiers, 6,000 tanks, 3,000 aircraft. Against them stood Finland, a nation of 3.5 million people, an army 1/10 the size, outdated weapons, no tanks worth mentioning. The Soviets expected to conquer Finland in 2 weeks. They were catastrophically wrong, because waiting in the frozen forests of eastern Finland was a 33-year-old farmer named Simo Häyhä, 5 foot 3 inches tall. Quiet, unassuming, a man you wouldn't notice in a crowd, and the most efficient killer the modern world has ever seen. Simo Häyhä was born in 1905 in Rautjärvi, a small farming community near the Soviet border. His childhood was simple. Work the farm, hunt in the forests, survive the brutal Finnish winters. By age 17, he had joined the Finnish Civil Guard, a voluntary defense organization. Nothing unusual. Most Finnish men did. But Simo was different. He loved shooting. Not for sport, not for competition. He loved it the way some men love music or art. It was meditation, it was perfection, it was control. He practiced constantly, in summer, in winter, in rain, in snow. He learned to shoot while lying in snowdrifts for hours. He learned to control his breathing in temperatures that froze exposed skin in minutes. He learned patience that would make a monk jealous. But Simo's childhood hunting was more than just practice. It was preparation for something he didn't know was coming. Finnish forests are not like forests anywhere else. In winter, they become a white maze of death. Temperatures drop to -40 Celsius. Exposed skin freezes in minutes. Visibility drops to meters in heavy snowfall. Most men would die in those conditions. Simo thrived in them. He learned to move silently through snow, to read animal tracks, to predict where prey would go before it knew itself, to wait in freezing temperatures for hours without moving. He learned that the hunter who moves first loses. The hunter who waits wins. By the time he was 20, Simo could track a bear through a snowstorm, could hit a running elk at 200 meters, could survive 3 days in the forest with nothing but a rifle and a knife. These were not military skills. They were survival skills. But in 1939, they would become the most valuable military skills in Finland. In 1925, he joined the Finnish army for his mandatory service year. His shooting skills were immediately noticed. He competed in national marksmanship competitions. He won. Repeatedly. By the time his service ended, Simo Häyhä was one of the best marksmen in Finland. Then he went back to farming. For 14 years he lived a quiet life, grew crops, raised animals, hunted elk and bear in the vast northern forests. He was unremarkable, forgettable, just another Finnish farmer in the middle of nowhere, until November 30th, 1939. The Winter War began because Joseph Stalin wanted territory. The Soviet Union demanded that Finland surrender large portions of land near Leningrad for defensive purposes. When Finland refused, Stalin invaded with overwhelming force. The world expected Finland to surrender immediately. Instead, Finland mobilized every man who could hold a rifle. Simo Häyhä, now 33 years old, reported to his unit. He was assigned to the 6th Company of JR-34, a regiment tasked with defending the Kola River area in eastern Finland. the coldest, most brutal sector of the entire front. Perfect terrain for what Simo did best. The Soviet strategy was simple. Overwhelm the Finns with numbers, push through with tanks and artillery, accept casualties, win through attrition. But the Finns had a different strategy. They knew the terrain, they knew the weather, and they knew that Soviet troops, most of them from warmer regions, had no idea how to fight in temperatures that dropped to -40 degrees Celsius. So the Finns used small mobile units, hit-and-run tactics, ambushes, guerrilla warfare, and snipers. Lots of snipers. Simo Häyhä was given a simple mission: hold the line at Kola, kill as many Soviet soldiers as possible. He would exceed expectations in ways no one could imagine. December 1939, the first week of war. Simo's unit was dug in along the Kola River. Soviet forces outnumbered them 30-1. Officers expected to be overrun within days. On his first day, Simo killed 4 Soviet soldiers. His squad mates were impressed. 4 kills in one day was exceptional. The next day, he killed 7. The third day, 9. By the end of the first week, Simo Häyhä had killed 43 Soviet soldiers. His commanding officer called him in. "Häyhä, the reports say you've killed 43 men in 6 days. Is this accurate?" Simo nodded. "How?" Simo's answer was simple. "They keep coming. I keep shooting." The officer stared at him. This quiet farmer showed no emotion, no pride, no horror, just acceptance. "Keep doing what you're doing," the officer said. Simo saluted and returned to his position. The next day, he killed 11 more. Simo's weapon was a Finnish M2830 rifle, nicknamed Pistikorva, a variant of the Soviet Mosin Nagant, modified for Finnish conditions. He refused to use a telescopic sight. This confused his officers. A scope would give him better accuracy at longer range. Why refuse it? Simo had 3 reasons. First, scopes add height to your shooting position. In snow, every centimeter matters. A scope forces you higher, makes you visible, makes you dead. Second, in -40-degree weather, the glass lens of a scope fogs up, freezes over, becomes useless. Iron sights never freeze. Third, a scope glints in sunlight, reflects, gives away your position. Soviet counter-snipers were specifically trained to look for scope glint. Simo wanted none of that. Iron sights only. Closer range. Absolute concealment. It worked. His method was simple but required superhuman discipline. He would find a position before dawn, usually a snowdrift with a clear view of Soviet approach routes. He would dig in, pack snow in front of him to create a low barrier, pour water on it so it would freeze solid overnight. Then he would wait, for hours, sometimes an entire day, in temperatures that would kill an unprepared man in 20 minutes. He wore white winter camouflage, packed snow around his position to break up his outline, kept his rifle barrel wrapped to prevent steam from his breath escaping near the muzzle. He put snow in his mouth to prevent his breath from creating visible vapor clouds in the frozen air, and he waited for Soviet soldiers to walk into his kill zone. When they did, he fired. 1 shot, 1 kill. Then he waited again. No rapid fire, no second chances. Just single, perfect shots that dropped men before they even knew they were being hunted. The Soviets started calling the Finnish snipers cuckoos because they were hidden, invisible, and deadly. But there was one cuckoo they feared above all others: the White Death. Soviet soldiers began finding their comrades dead in the snow with single bullet wounds. No sound, no warning, just death from nowhere. Officers noticed a pattern. Men were dying in specific areas, always single shots. Always head or chest wounds, always from positions that seemed impossibly well concealed. They realized they were dealing with a sniper of extraordinary skill. Soviet commanders issued orders: find him, kill him. Counter-sniper teams were deployed. Entire squads were sent to hunt one man. They failed because Simo never stayed in the same position twice, never followed a pattern, never gave them a chance to predict his next move. He was a ghost. The numbers started climbing. 10 kills, 20, 50, 100. Soviet officers couldn't believe the reports. One man couldn't possibly be killing this many soldiers, but the bodies didn't lie, and Simo kept shooting. He developed a rhythm: wake before dawn, move to a new position, shoot between 10 and 25 Soviet soldiers per day, return to base after dark, clean his rifle, sleep a few hours, repeat every single day for nearly 100 days. His fellow soldiers watched in awe and horror. This quiet farmer had become a killing machine. Calm, methodical, emotionless. He didn't celebrate kills, didn't brag, just marked them in his personal log and prepared for the next day. By late January 1940, Simo Häyhä had killed over 250 Soviet soldiers with iron sights in sub-zero temperatures, while Soviet artillery pounded Finnish positions daily. The Soviets were desperate to stop him. Stalin himself was reportedly informed about the White Death. A single Finnish sniper was demoralizing entire Soviet battalions. Men refused to advance in certain areas because they knew he was out there. Soviet commanders tried everything. They sent counter-sniper teams with the best marksmen in the Red Army. Simo killed them. They sent scouts to find his positions. Simo killed them too. They launched artillery barrages on suspected sniper nests. Simo simply moved. They even tried sending soldiers at night. But Simo had grown up hunting in Finnish forests. He knew the terrain in total darkness better than Soviet soldiers knew it in daylight. Nothing worked. By February 1940, the confirmed kill count was over 400, and Soviet morale in the Kola sector was collapsing. In early January 1940, Soviet intelligence identified Simo's general operating area. They sent a 12-man counter-sniper team, elite marksmen from the Red Army's best units, men with scopes, spotting equipment, and orders to kill the White Death at any cost. They set up in a position they believed Simo used frequently, and they waited. For 3 days, they saw nothing. On the fourth day, one of them spotted movement, a white shape in the snow 600 meters away. They opened fire. When they approached the position, they found a dummy, a white sheet stuffed with snow, positioned to look like a sniper. While they were investigating, Simo shot all 12 of them from a completely different position. He had watched them for 4 days, learned their patterns, waited for them to reveal their location, then killed them systematically, one after another. They never even saw where the shots came from. In mid-January, Soviet artillery received orders to shell suspected Finnish sniper positions for 6 hours straight. Thousands of shells. Entire sections of forest were obliterated. Trees shattered. Snow vaporized. Earth torn apart. When the barrage ended, Soviet infantry advanced, confident that nothing could have survived. That afternoon, 7 Soviet soldiers were shot dead in that same sector. Simo had simply moved 500 meters east and waited for them. In late January, Soviet officers tried a new tactic. They sent a large formation of soldiers forward, not to attack, just to draw fire. The plan was simple: get the sniper to shoot, identify his position from muzzle flash or sound, then saturate that area with machine gun fire. 200 Soviet soldiers advanced across open ground. Simo watched them through his iron sights and didn't fire. He knew it was a trap. So he waited until they gave up and withdrew. As they retreated, officers moved to the front of the formation to lead them back. Simo killed 3 officers in 5 seconds. The formation collapsed into chaos, leaderless, panicked. While they scattered, Simo killed 14 more, then disappeared back into the forest. The trap had failed. Worse, it had cost them 17 men and 3 officers for 0 Finnish casualties. Soviet morale in the Kola sector was collapsing, but numbers only tell part of the story. What made Simo Häyhä truly terrifying wasn't just how many he killed, it was how he killed them. Soviet soldiers reported that officers and sergeants died first. Always. Company commanders would be shot before they could give orders. This created chaos. Leaderless units wandered into ambushes. Disorganized attacks were slaughtered. Machine gunners died second. The Soviets relied heavily on machine gun fire to suppress Finnish positions. Simo would identify machine gun nests and systematically kill the gunners, one after another, until the gun went silent. Then he would kill anyone who tried to reach the gun. This wasn't random sniping. This was tactical warfare by one man. He was destroying Soviet offensive capability one bullet at a time. On March 6, 1940, Simo Häyhä was in his usual position. He had already killed several Soviet soldiers that morning. It was late afternoon. The light was fading. He was preparing to withdraw for the night. Then an explosive round hit near his face, not a rifle bullet, an artillery shell fragment, or possibly a Soviet sniper finally getting lucky with an explosive round designed to kill hidden targets. The impact struck the left side of his face, shattered his jaw, destroyed several teeth, tore through the left side of his cheek. He collapsed into the snow. His comrades found him minutes later. He was unconscious, bleeding massively. His face was destroyed. They thought he was dead. He wasn't. Simo Häyhä woke up 11 days later, March the 17th, 1940, in a field hospital. Half his face bandaged, unable to speak. The Winter War had ended 6 days earlier. Finland had survived. The Soviets had suffered catastrophic casualties, over 200,000 dead or missing, far more than they expected. They had gained some territory, but nothing close to their goals. The world was shocked. Tiny Finland had humiliated the Soviet Union, and one man had become a legend. Simo Häyhä's final confirmed kill count, 505, with a rifle without a scope, in 98 days of combat. That's an average of 5 kills per day. No sniper in history has ever matched that number. But here's what makes it even more remarkable. Those 505 kills? That's only confirmed sniper kills. Simo also used a Suomi KPA-31 submachine gun during close-range engagements. Finnish records credit him with an estimated 200 additional kills with the submachine gun, meaning Simo Häyhä may have killed over 700 Soviet soldiers in less than 100 days. 700 by himself. To understand how impossible this is, let's compare Simo to other legendary snipers. Chris Kyle, American sniper, Iraq War. 160 confirmed kills over multiple deployments, years of combat, with modern equipment, spotters, and support. Impressive, but less than a third of Simo's count. Vasily Zaitsev, Soviet sniper, Battle of Stalingrad. 242 confirmed kills in 5 months of combat, with a scope, with support, in an urban environment with abundant targets. Legendary. Still barely half of Simo's count. Francis Pegamagabo, Canadian sniper. World War I, 378 confirmed kills, over 4 years of war, with support teams, with spotters, extraordinary. Still 127 kills short of Simo. But here's what makes Simo's achievement truly incomprehensible. All of those snipers had scopes, had spotters, had support teams, had backup, had extraction plans. Simo had none of that. He had iron sights, a rifle, and Finnish winter. And he killed more than all of them, in 98 days, alone. In the coldest, harshest conditions imaginable, there is no second place. There is no close comparison. Simo Häyhä is not the deadliest sniper in history because he's slightly better than the competition. He's the deadliest sniper in history because no one else is even remotely close. The injuries Simo sustained should have killed him. The left side of his face was destroyed, jaw shattered in multiple places, several teeth gone, cheek torn open. The damage was so severe that field medics didn't think he'd survive the transport to the hospital. But he did. He underwent 26 reconstructive surgeries over the next several years. The left side of his face never fully healed. It remained visibly disfigured for the rest of his life. He had difficulty eating, persistent pain, partial facial paralysis. But he was alive. And more importantly to Simo, Finland was still free. That's all that mattered to him. When asked decades later if the pain was worth it, his answer was immediate. Of course. We won. After the war, Simo recovered slowly. His face was permanently disfigured. He underwent multiple surgeries. The left side of his face never fully healed, but he survived. He lived quietly for the rest of his life, returned to farming, hunted moose, avoided publicity for decades. When journalists finally tracked him down in the 1970s and asked how he became such a deadly sniper, his answer was simple: practice. When asked if he regretted killing so many men, he said no. I only did my duty. I did what I was told to, as well as I could. When asked what he felt when he pulled the trigger, he replied, the recoil. Simoheha died in 2002 at the age of 96. He lived longer than most of the Soviet soldiers he killed ever did. The Soviet Union, the nation that sent an army to kill him, collapsed 11 years before his death. Finland remains free. Here's what the history books won't tell you clearly enough. The Winter War proved something the Soviets desperately wanted to hide. Numbers don't always win wars. The Soviet Union had more men, more tanks, more planes, more of everything. But they didn't have men like Simoheha, men who knew their land, men who understood that patience is a weapon, men who could endure conditions that would break trained soldiers, men who treated war not as glory, but as work that needed to be done. One man, one rifle, iron sights, over 500 dead. The Soviets sent counter-snipers. He killed them. They sent artillery. He moved. They sent entire battalions. He waited for them. And when they finally managed to wound him, it took an explosive round to the face. Even then, he survived. The White Death. Not because he enjoyed killing, but because he was simply better at it than anyone else who has ever lived. 505 confirmed kills in 98 days, with iron sights, in the frozen forests of Finland, against the largest army in Europe. Remember his name, Simoheha, the farmer who became death, the sniper the Soviets couldn't kill, the White Death.
505 men, 98 days. People ask, was it worth it? I tell you, every single one. Because Finland is still free. My children and grandchildren are free. That matters. One man with purpose is more dangerous than an army without it. If my story inspired you, subscribe to The Reckoning Hour. Share this video. Tell your friends. When you stand for something bigger than yourself, when you refuse to surrender, you become unstoppable. I was a farmer. I had winter. I had patience. And I won. Remember that. Hyvää päivää. Good day.